Yeah, the ones who went underground lived in a less than ideal living situation for a long time, and they ended up having to um, clone themselves in order to perpetuate their life, to make new people. And then they learned how to make themselves live for a long time too, like 1,000 years or something like that. And they also learned how to eat out of sleeping in or sitting in hot tubs filled with nutrient water, so they would just absorb into their skin, and also sucking on leaves or nutrient packets, nutrient sticks in their mouth and not even swallowing, and so they can't even swallow. If they open up their mouth, all you see are little like flaps that would just absorb the food, but at the end it doesn't go down any. And their heads got really big, their eyes got really big. They do have pupils, but when you see them with the big black eyes, that's because they have black contacts in, so that they don't burn out their eyes because they lived in really dark. But they got really smart. So, anyways, and they got up to be, and they shrunk in size, standing straight up, just over 4 feet tall. And so yeah, so they lived in the future, and then, well, according to some guy, in the year 3,700, we invent time travel. But by 25,000 years in the future, on that fucked up timeline, they had time travel, and they flew back to here, and that's when they crashed at Roswell. 25,000 years. And those guys were actually already working with humans, because when they opened up the Roswell spaceship, there was a normal human being in there with those funky looking aliens. But anyways, then you have these other ones who came back at another time in the future, in 45,000 years in the future, and that who Dan Burish calls P. I don't know why, P45s, and then these other ones are 52,000 years in the future from us. So, as you get farther in the future, they get more and more sick. And so Dan Burish was working down here in this huge underground laboratory where they're doing all sorts of like experimentation on people, maybe trying to figure out how to make clones or creating clones of humans versus them. But anyway, he said he heard as he was taking the tram through the tunnels to get to where he worked, he heard like animals screaming in pain from injections, and all kinds of animals, and horrifying sound. And then he heard people doing it too, like people screaming in pain and being captive in there, getting experimented on. And yeah, he said it was not a fun experience, a very freaky, unpleasant experience. And he said that the way that MJ12 operates is very not very respectfully. They're the people who are in charge are actually the aliens, but then you have these who, now this is where it gets really weird. These aliens who live in human bodies, dead human bodies, zombies. The men in black are these gray aliens who want to walk amongst us and get away with it without people going, oh my God, it's an alien. So they take these dead bodies and they do the Avatar thing where they hook their real body up to some machine, and then they can put the soul or the remote control some dead body, but it's not a dead human body, and so they walk. And he says like they just soiled their drawers, so they walk really weird like zombies, and they get confused easily, and they'll like shoot you and they'll kill you. And like he had a run-in with one who was sent after his wife, and he thought it was going to kill her or something, so he had to run away from it, and he called security to come and get it or something like that. And it was like swinging on a swing set, going like, swing fun. He's like, yeah, swing fun. It's like, oh, it's kind of freaky. But anyways, but yeah, they have this whole hierarchy thing, and they have these like guards who like keep the people who work in MJ12, the scientists like him, in check. And he said he got his like hand stomped on, he got like slapped, and it was like. But anyways, so they took him into some room, and he was the guy who was in charge of trying to take samples, inject needles over and over and over again into some alien from 52,000 years in the future, this guy Kal-El. And I think, and I'm not sure, I could be wrong, that Kal-El is the same alien who abducted him when he was 9 and made him into science. So Kal-El had like an affinity for him and thought he was a very kind of like his son, because it was like his science project. But anyways, Dan Burish is going up there, and I think it's maybe one of the earlier times he was going up there to try to, and I think he was with some other people in some special zone, because they have I think they have the alien. They have the aliens hanging out with humans making decisions and stuff in these like strollers where they're inside of this encapsulated Segway that they can't push themselves around, but humans can push them. Or maybe they can push themselves, but humans have to push them in others because some of them are captive. But there's also this chamber where the alien just gets to hang out in the chamber all by himself. In a much less dense atmosphere because I guess the Earth in the future, in this fucked up future, lost all of its atmosphere and there was like no atmosphere. And so, and their bodies are of a lot lesser density as well. And even like maybe like mushy, like if you touch it, it would be like soft and gooey, soft and just light bodies and just. So if they were to live in this atmosphere, they'd be crushed. It'd be like being under the ocean or something. So they were in a. This guy was in this thing. So then the guy has to get in a spacesuit. Dan Burish has to get in a spacesuit, and then and then walk into this room all decompressed. And it's like this procedure that takes like an hour and a half because they have to get like deloused, so to speak, every time they come in and out. And so he's hanging out with this alien about to take the sample out of him. And then the alien like does some kind of like weird like psychic like mind control thing on him, like steps forward and does this. And so he like freaks out and like thought he was going to get murdered by the alien and like falls down. And then the alien jumps on his chest and looks in his eyes and like basically brainwashed him into being his friend. Not brainwashed him in a bad way because you want to treat these aliens with respect because they're human beings and he was captive and you don't want to captivate people. But nobody knew that he did that to him. Like the guys around him didn't know what happened. So then the alien jumped off of him. And they're like, hey, what was that all about? And then after that, they just continued to allow Dan Burish to be the guy who would take the stuff out of the alien. But every time Dan Burish went in, he could telepathically communicate with the alien because the alien taught him how to do that when he entrained him is what Dan Burish word he uses. And so he made friends with this alien and he's having conversations about I guess everything, and the alien was like, and now see that's one part that's sketchy about Dan Burish is if he had so many conversations, why didn't he say more in the interview? Because I'm pretty much telling everything he said in like a 3-hour-long interview. So maybe they didn't meet that many times. I don't know, but I guess this alien had a son on a planet because these aliens, I think the aliens finally moved off this planet and moved off to the Lyra, maybe with the tall whites. I don't know. But, well, I know that the hybrids were given their own planet. But it's about 300 light years from here on another dimension, so we can't see it. But, anyways, those are called the Sithani. But he was there doing the, experiments on the alien. And every time he took the alien and trained him to feel empathetic. He made him telepathic. So he could feel. So every time Dan Burish took the samples out of the alien, Dan Burish felt the pain that the alien felt. And the alien felt physical pain. And he could feel the anger. The alien was angry that he was being captive and that he was being like injected so many times. Because what Dan Burish's job was, and I think it was maybe later, that they were trying to have him work on this. It was called Project Lotus, where he, was trying to figure out what was wrong with these aliens for whatever reason. Because what happened with the aliens is they finally got to the point where they could not reproduce anymore a clone of a clone of a clone just got sick. They couldn't even walk upright anymore. If they were upright, they would be just over 4 feet tall. But this guy, because he was totally hunched over, very skinny, maybe 40 pounds or something, just over 3 feet tall, brown, scaly skin, that was probably uncomfortable body to live in for this alien. And he says that's why some people now he says he doesn't necessarily disbelieve that there are evil reptilian aliens, but maybe some people would confuse the gray aliens as the reptilian aliens because they have like the scaly skin the sickness that they have. And he even explained the sickness, something about how the cells would. No, anyway, it acted really interesting. I can't remember that part, but he made friends with this alien, and finally the alien talked him into. They took the alien to Egypt for some reason. Like maybe they have, and they teleported there. They have these teleportation technology where they can just step into a room, and then next thing they know, they're in Egypt. And supposedly that's what we're going to have in the future, and that's how they get to Mars. Like you can do that to Mars. And oh, whoops! I think I'll get to the next section, although I'm almost done.